So my father was always my biggest fan. He actually is a retired East Orange police officer from New Jersey, and he would tell me how he used to see Frankie Valli and Bob Gaudio on Bloomfield Avenue on the streets. He'd be like, they had the most beautiful women and the most beautiful cars. And then finally, when I was auditioning for this, he was actually the one who was like, Dominic, you gotta get in there and audition for this Jersey Boy show. It's right up your alley. At first, I was a little hesitant because, you know, the singing is very, very tough. But I finally got the nerve, and I went in and I went through the audition process, and I was at my final audition, and it was in front of like Tara Rubin and Mary Sugarman and all the Dodgers and all the Jersey Boy people, and then Bob Gaudio came in. He had to have the final say. And they made me wait outside, and then Gaudio opened up the door and he said, hey kid, you want to go to Vegas? And in the whole process, I was so stern and like trying to be tough, and finally I broke down. I was like, can I call my dad? You know, because he was, you know, so excited about this thing, and he didn't know if I had the role. And then Gaudio steps up from his chair again, and he goes, let me call him. So I was able to watch the Bob Gaudio call my dad, who was sitting at a desk in Newark, New Jersey. Bob was like, hey Dom, this is Bobby. And my father was like, Bobby who? And apparently there was an expletive shouted from my father's end. He was like, what is this, a joke? Like, he couldn't believe that this actually was happening, and I couldn't believe that it was actually happening. It was really a dream come true to watch, and it'll always stay in my head. My father's seen the show hundreds of times, and he always has the same look on his face of pride, and it's just been amazing, and he's just an amazing man.
I grew up in a very theatrical family. My mother's side of the family was all in the arts, and my father was not. But he was always kind of there leading these parades and dancing through the aisles. But my father, we're from a very small town, so my father always wears a very big cowboy hat. Ever since I got Jersey Boys, I always know when my father's in the audience because you can see his cowboy hat anywhere he is. He has like the worst theater etiquette. He doesn't know he's supposed to take it off. Jersey Boys is such a male, kind of wonderful story about brotherhood, so to watch my kind of, you know, cowboy dad sit through a musical is really a special moment for me.
So I'm from a really small town in Alberta, Canada. It's called Stettler, Alberta, population 5,000. You know, it's surrounded by fields and cows, and everyone plays hockey. And my dad, he's a retired pro hockey player who turned, you know, carpenter turned oil man. And he used to drive me an hour and a little bit to these piano lessons that I would take in this other small town in the middle of nowhere. And so every week we'd drive out. You know, he'd drop me off, and then he would come back and we'd drive back together. And after a couple years of doing that, just out of the blue, he decided he wanted to take piano lessons too. And so we drive out together, I take my lesson, I do my homework while he was taking his, and we drive back together. And he didn't want to just do that, he wanted to perform as well. And so he did all these lessons, and then it culminated in this performance at my piano recital, the theme from Love Story, you know, do 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 do. It was awesome. It was one of the coolest things my dad has ever done. And I asked him about it a couple weeks ago, like, why did you take piano lessons? What prompted you to do that? And he said, you know, I've always been a jock, and I want to do something that was kind of out of my comfort zone. And he said, I wanted something that we could talk about. I wanted something that we had in common, and I wanted to know what it was like for you to learn a song and have to get up and perform it in front of a bunch of people, so that ever if you needed help, I knew what that was like and I could help you out. So that's my dad.
A really great story about my dad is on my very first Broadway show. It was a show called Teddy and Alice back in it was opening night, and they were having this really great party, but they were only allowing one family member for each person to come along as a guest, and there were 8 kids in the show, and my dad felt really bad for me and for the other kids in the show, so he actually found a restaurant near the opening night party and rented out the restaurant. And we do not have, I don't come from money, we didn't have a lot of money. He used like credit cards and ran up debt and stuff like that because he wanted to have the place for the families to go. So we all went to the party, we showed face, and then we went to this after party, if you will, at this restaurant. And by the end of the night, every single person in the cast and creative team were at the restaurant that my dad rented, having a blast, dancing, going crazy, and this and that. And it really, it brings me back to actually a line from Jersey Boys that Frankie says, it's just, family is everything. And that's how my dad looks at it, that's how I look at it with my son, you know, and I feel really blessed to have a father who instilled that in me. So happy Father's Day, Dad, I love you.